Welcome to the Your Next Level podcast. I'm your host, Insaaf Daniels. Join me every Monday for a new episode where we talk career, manifestation, money, relationships, and so much more. Join us as we show you how to get from where you're at to your next level. You can expect a new episode every single Monday. Welcome to Your Next Level with Insaaf Daniels. Bernice, thank you so much for coming on the Your Next Level podcast. I am so happy to have you on.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
To start off, would you just share a bit about yourself and what you do professionally so our listeners can get to know you?
Of course. Well, I'm a trained psychologist and counselor, and my journey began when my mother instilled in me and my siblings the value and importance of education. And her take is that education is not about necessarily to gain, social mobility, status, or money, but it was for the purpose of acquiring skills, knowledge, expertise that would respond to the needs of others and make a positive difference in their lives. So I took my education and training quite seriously, and I made it a habit to work really conscientiously. And so, having achieved my accreditation, I entered the world of work with a strong desire and intention to serve, and to serve not in an ordinary way, but with a spirit of excellence and curiosity. And so that, in a nutshell, is my background, and I'm sure we can unpack that a bit further in terms of when things changed for me.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's so different the way your parents shared what education is compared to what I think most people understand education to be.
Yes, I found that rather remarkable from an early age because, growing up in school, growing up within a Black family, my parents, at least, she understood what the meaning of life was. And it wasn't just about money. And the fact that I was able to hold on to that at an early age, I give her credit for that.
Oh, no, definitely. Well done to her. And I'm so glad for everyone that is listening right now to shift their mindset and see education in that way as well, hopefully. So can you share with us your journey as a psychologist, counselor, and personal development coach? How did you discover your passion for helping individuals? And I'm sure it had started with the meaning of why education is important.
Absolutely. And as I've said, when I qualified as a psychologist and coach, I entered the world, with that passion. Yes, I'm ready to serve. But as time progressed in SAP, my professional role shrunk, and I felt stuck performing repetitive tasks that were not necessarily linked to my areas of expertise and interest for that matter. And so it became a really stressful situation for me, which actually took its toll on my health. And so in my moments of reflection, I realized that my life wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wasn't the person I wanted to be. And again, I thought back to what is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? And I asked myself a really serious question. And I'm going to tell you what that question is. What must I do to change myself and my circumstance? That was the question that led me on a journey of self-discovery in order to create a path that aligned with my highest ideals and passion and mission, rather than a path which others assigned to me. And so it was at that point that I completed my training and certified as a personal performance coach. And I chose to specialize in identity and self-advocacy because those areas I needed to reconcile for myself first. And secondly, I realized that there are hundreds and thousands, if not millions of women around the world who feel marginalized and unfulfilled in the workplace and do not yet have the skills to confidently advocate for themselves. So I consider it my mission to help women delve deeply and discover their most authentic identity so that they too were better able to choose to be the person that they were created to be and to live a life of peace, joy, and contentment.
That is so beautiful. Wow. And I mean, that question is just so absolutely powerful. And I don't think that we ask ourselves what do I want to do that is going to make me feel happy, that's going to make me feel that I am in my highest power and purpose. And then actually, once you discover your answer to that question, and I know your answer might not come to you immediately. How long would you say that how long did it take for your answer to come to you? What was that journey like?
You're absolutely right in saying that each individual's journey is different, and that will be dependent on many factors, including where they are in their life right now, their life experiences, their vision for themselves, what state of mental or psychological resourcefulness they have at the moment, their level of resilience. Because take the word resilience, for example. It's not that we're resilient or we're not resilient. We are resilient in certain situations, and we are less resilient in other situations. So that's a concept that we need to better understand. When we say you need to be more resilient, it's not just either or. It's looking at the context in which you are resilient and the context in which you are less resilient, and look at what is occurring in this situation where I feel confident, I feel that I'm operating, I'm functioning as my best self, or what are those circumstances where I feel totally helpless, hopeless? So you're right, it's a personal journey for each person. And I think that from my point of view, the first thing was to recognize that something is wrong here, and having a faith that allows me to think about my purpose for living. That was a starting point for me. And it was easier to recognize the dissonance, the confusion, the disconnect in my life when I was able to compare where I was at the time to where I needed to be. Hence the must. What must I do to bring about that change for myself and my circumstances?
Yeah. And what was some of before you realized that you need to make a change, you were feeling uncomfortable in the position that you were at in life, in your career? What was some of those uncomfortableness, if you can share? Was it like stress? Was it unhappiness?
Yes, there was definitely a lot of stress, a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of anxiety around. This is let me just backtrack a little bit. Recognizing that I had gifts and expertise to offer, and that I was serving outside of my gifting, so to speak. I think that was one of the experiences that made me feel that I wasn't living from the fullness of myself. And that caused, what psychologists describe as that cognitive dissonance. There's that tension between your actions are not in line with your values and your beliefs. And so in order to reconcile that tension, I needed to do something that was going to cause me to feel a bit more comfortable and at ease with myself and the person I wanted to be. And so it was just one of those situations where my mental health was suffering. There was high levels of stress that took a toll on my physical health as well. And so I realized there are certain things that are within my control to influence, and there are other things that are not within my control to influence. For example, the organizational culture, structures, other people's priorities. That's not within my control, okay? But what was within my control was, Bernice, you have a responsibility to yourself, to your creator, to be the best person that you can be. And you have the autonomy to choose to do things differently.
I love that. And I love that you said, once you look at where you are at and asking yourself, does your actions and values align? That is so powerful. And so for someone that is currently feeling the way you felt, what would you say is like the first things that they need to do or reflect on?
I would say, and again, each person's next step would be different. But in my experience, personally and professionally, working with clients, it has become apparent to me that one of the first things that's really important is to have a clear understanding of our identity. Okay, who we are, that's who we are, our actual self. And then to take that a bit further to explore, what is my ideal identity? Who do I aspire to become? Take it even at a higher level, who ought I to become? Okay, and then when we have an understanding of those three dimensions of self, we can begin to explore by delving even deeper. What does coherent identity looks like? So when I am in alignment with myself, that's when I'm living from my most powerful, authentic, coherent identity. And when women get to that place of understanding that, that's where the wellspring of confidence and enjoyment will flow. And I think one of the other things that women also need to understand is to get a vision of the future they want for themselves. I don't know whether you're familiar with the verse in the Bible that says, without a vision, the people perish. And the language of perishing may sound a bit harsh. However, I think that without a vision of a preferred and a meaningful future, the probability of drifting aimlessly in life is quite high. So it's important for women to at least take the time to step back from the busyness of life and all. And of course, we know that life is busy, but it's considering what is my best asset? What is the best investment I could make to myself? And that is to step away, to reflect and think about, who am I? Who do I want to become? And how can I make myself ready to serve? Because that is what life is about. And so it's about how do we show up to serve ourselves, our families, our community to the best of our ability. And I think those two things are really key. Figuring out who we are and having a clearer vision for our life and our purpose.
I think that is the best thing that any woman can do. And I know it's like you said, everyone is busy, but you need to take the time out to understand who you are and what you mean to you, and then figure out what is it that you actually want for yourself and for your life, and how it is that you can serve others. So earlier you spoke about you understood what your gifts are. So how does one understand what their gifts are?
That's a really fascinating question, actually. I would say that one can become more familiar with their unique gifts through a process of self-inquiry. Okay. And sometimes we overestimate or even underestimate our strengths, our abilities, and even our potential. But I truly believe that by honestly reflecting on our interests, what are we passionate about, and our skills, also thinking about the activities that bring us joy and fulfillment, as well as reflecting on what comes naturally to us. Those are some of the indicators of our unique gifts. And I must say that although certain activities may come natural to us, there is still the need for us to hone and develop our talents. So it's not that, I'm good at this, I'm good at saying, I'm good at IT, or I'm a good nurse, or whatever. It's great to be able to recognize our unique gifting, but it develops with practice. The more we practice something, the more competent we become. It flows from us. So those are some of the ways in which we can identify our unique gifts. Another thing that we could do is to seek feedback from people we trust, like family members, friends, or colleagues, and take note of any compliments that we receive. Somebody may say to you, Infa, you're such a great speaker. You're such you're such a compassionate person. Have you thought about becoming an HR manager or whatever? So it's looking at what people are reflecting back to us that can help us to actually explore our unique gifts.
I think that is such good tips, and really I think starting with that self-reflection, and then thinking about what are the things that other people come to us for, and what are the things that we are passionate about, and how can we explore that further, and like you say, develop it further as well. So once we have that figured out, which is already a lot of self-discovery, and then I think the next challenge that might come is leaving what you are comfortable with and going through that transformation. And what do you think are some of the the blockers, some of the, like, maybe it's even limiting beliefs that are holding people back from going from the place that's making them feel so uncomfortable, however it's known, such as, like, maybe a specific career or at a specific company, and then taking that time to transform. What do you think are the things that hold people back from that transformation, from taking that next step?
Again, this differs for individual persons. As you've hinted, Insaaf, the beliefs that we hold about ourselves can either empower us or disempower us. And so if, for example, somebody believes that I'll never be able to have a courageous conversation with my manager, I'll never be able to ask for a promotion, I'm not good enough, and all of those beliefs that keep them stuck, it's the mindset that will help us to identify the ideals that we want for our lives. And when it comes to change, as inevitable as change is, it's very difficult to change. Habits, by definition, we don't think about them, we just do them. And so it's looking at the habits that are not helping us to make that next step into the world of the unknown. I mean, when you think about, habits in psychology, the brain fights to hold on to the familiar. One of the highest principles of the brain is to keep us safe. And when we're not sure about the uncertainty that change inevitably will bring, all of these beliefs will come to the fore saying, no, you're comfortable here. Just stay here. But in fact, we've got to speak to our brain and put our brains through that mental discipline and training to think about, there is something greater that I see for myself. And so I now need to retrain those beliefs and habits to align with the new future, the new direction that I want to take. So it's really important for your audience to fully recognize and be patient with yourself as well. Be kind and compassionate to yourself, recognizing that change is a continual process, okay? And it requires that awareness, that a strong, resilient mindset that, look, I know this is going to be choppy waters I'm entering. And actually, we know it's a truism that nothing that's important in life comes easily. So we have to be willing to invest the time and the effort to know and to do the things that are required to enter into that place of change and transformation. And actually, just to say, change and transformation are different things. You can have external change. We can all change our hairstyle or clothing. And I don't mean to be frivolous. But transformation comes from deep within. And those are the beliefs and the values and the mindset that we hold. Those are the things, core factors that are going to help us navigate that transformation in our life.
And what are some of the tools that one can use to go into that transformation?
I would say, first of all, I think the tools would be dependent on maybe a person's personality preferences, because I'm just thinking through different tools, different methodologies that I use. My methodology is quite immersive, and by that I mean it involves the people that I serve to be willing to reflect deeply, to set time aside to do that. But it's also about each person understanding how they, for example, their learning style, how they process information. Some are able to do that visually, some do that auditorily, some do that through kind of static ways and, through the different senses. And so when I meet with somebody, I talk them through, their preferred style, so that whatever tools or methodologies are being used, it will make sense. It will be consistent with the way they can process and experience the change. So, for example, one of the first things that I do with clients is to look at a self-assessment tool, okay? So that they can reflect on certain life experiences and think about, if not this, then what? Okay, so in a way it's helping them to develop an action plan that is consistent with their goals. But some people prefer journaling, some people prefer vision boards, some people prefer different methodologies. So I don't have a one size fits all methodology to offer. And that is where the individuality comes in terms of exploring what is likely to work best for somebody. Having said that, there are certain strategies and tools that somebody may be resistant to because they're not comfortable functioning in their preferred methodology, so to speak, their preferred way of thinking and feeling or sensing things. But there could be alternative methodology, could be a hidden pathway to unearthing some of the awareness, the wisdom and insight that they need to access. So once we build up that relationship, and we talk about how effective those have been for them, then we can explore the possibility of how would you feel, if somebody is it's not necessarily physical, they don't necessarily like physical activity. Although I can't imagine that to be the case, but it's possible, going on nature walks just to listen to the birds and to anchor, to reset our autonomic nervous system, which is really good for stress. So if that hasn't been something that somebody had been interested in the past, that could be something that they could explore, and they may be pleasantly surprised by the benefits of doing something novel.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also think that, like, for myself personally, I found that I don't stick with one thing. I might, go to journaling for a couple of months, and then 6 months later, I just find myself being resistant to journaling, and then I'll try something new. Maybe do voice notes to myself and go on a nature walk. So I think also if you try something, you don't have to stick with it forever. If you are feeling that you're resistant to it, try something else.
Absolutely. And I think what I would like to interject here, it might be a useful reflective activity to think about. What is it that is causing resistance to this methodology, to journaling, as you've said? What is it that is causing that resistance? Is it that requires of me too much authenticity?
Maybe.
Is this bringing up sort of that dissonance that I don't want to deal with right now? So as important as it is to try different things, before we hastily skip away from whatever it is, just pause to think about, I wonder what is prompting this resistance here.
So true, eh? So true. And it's usually you don't feel like getting so deep into it, because when you're going to start, it's going to open so many things that you're not ready for. Can we touch on marginalization in the workplace? Can you explain what that terms mean?
Sure. Marginalization has to do with the experience of feeling excluded, feeling undervalued, feeling that your opinions don't really matter, not offered opportunities for growth and advancement in your career. It's about that sense of feeling and being on the margins, on the periphery in the workplace. And I think both historically and currently, this has been a huge, huge challenge for so many people, and women in particular. And there's a sort of an intersectionality where some people are more so prone to marginalization in the workplace. And by intersectionality, I mean, you have a woman who is Black, who may be neurodiverse, who may have a physical limitation. So, for example, somebody with cerebral palsy, or somebody who needs to use a wheelchair. These are some of the factors that make it even more complex and more prone to be marginalized in the workplace. And so one of the things that I say to my clients is that it's absolutely essential for you to, first of all, know yourself, know your need, know your right, and develop the confidence to advocate for yourself. Okay? Because in as much as we would love to say these needs are going to be recognized by managers or organizations, etc., and there's legislation around that to some extent. I mean, there is legislation, but whether or not that is followed through is another question, and that may vary to different degrees in different organizations. So, as I said earlier, as women, we don't have the luxury of waiting for organizations to see us and to say, oh, let me do this, let me do that. And although it's their responsibility without a doubt. However, I say to my clients, it's your responsibility to know what you need for the purpose of allowing you to offer your expertise that will benefit other people. That's what it's about. You need the environment that enables you to optimally give of yourself of service to humanity.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful. And I think it also just goes with what you had mentioned at the beginning, knowing who you are, knowing your identity, and also your boundaries and what you're willing to accept. And, like you said, your rights as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that you use the word boundaries, because sometimes we have beliefs that seem to be fluid. And by that I mean, we don't set boundaries around what we can do and what we will do in a certain set of circumstances. So that makes us more prone to be accepting of whatever is being offered to us, even though it causes us so much injury, moral injury, physical injury. And I know it's a really difficult place to be. So I would say know your boundaries, particularly when it comes to your mental and physical health. Unapologetic about that. Make it a priority. And, I don't know if you want me to talk about this, but one of the things that I discovered, and I've written an ebook about it. I'll talk about that later. It's really important for us as women to have boundaries in terms of what's appropriate and what's inappropriate for us. And it's our responsibility not to wait for others to give us what they think we need. We need to let them know what we need, in fact. So that's a part of the boundaries that we need to establish. So, for example, if one is asked to work extra hours and we know that is going to have an impact on our health and it's going to deplete us to the point where come tomorrow we don't have the energy to present fully, more energetically, more vibrantly, then it's for us to say, I'm happy to do this, and this, but I will need to stop at 5 o'clock or whatever it is. So it's about maintaining the boundaries, but being absolutely clear, respectful, and specific about what we can do and what we're not able to do.
I love that. Can you share about your ebook? What is it about?
The ebook is about identity, being able to identify our actual self, our ideal self, and our ought self, as well as our coherent identity. Because when we are living, we can only live our most powerful lives when we are living in coherence, in line with our coherent identity. So the ebook talks about those concepts and provide a lot of strategies that women can use to be able to navigate that journey of self-exploration and self-expression, because they go hand in hand. When we explore and we discover who we are, then it almost ignites us. It gives us the freedom to be self-expressive, to honestly say, this is as much as I can do today. That is about authentic self-expression. Okay? So that, in a nutshell, is what the ebook is about.
I love that. Authentic self-expression. That is just so powerful. And it just really, I think, even when doing things or before doing things, asking yourself, is this like an authentic, expression of who I am? And if your answer is no, or even if you have to think about the answer, then, why are you doing that? Because it's not aligned to you. And it also means that if you say yes to something that is not aligned to you, then you are like going against your boundaries as well. And I just think it's so important for us and especially as women to set those boundaries and, ask yourself, like, is this aligned with who I am authentically? And I think also as you like mature, I feel like from my perspective, that's when we become like more our authentic selves. And why I love to have like people like you on my podcast is because I just feel like it's able to help people get to their authentic selves much faster than what they would have on their own by getting this information from you.
I'm pleased that you've said that, Insaaf, because just to be clear, and I know that you are aware of this, when we talk about maturity, it's not chronological maturity, okay? It's that psychological maturity, it's that emotional maturity, is that positive intelligence that is going to help us to become more of our authentic self. So that comes with the support of somebody who's trained in the areas of identity development, self-advocacy, communication skills, and all of that. So, and just to backtrack a little bit, you said something about wanting the importance of setting boundaries. And sometimes some of our values can appear to be in conflict. So for example, one of your values may be selflessness. You want to serve selflessly, okay? And it could be perceived as, if I say yes to myself, it means I'd have to say no to somebody else or to something else. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I could say something like, in terms of within the parameters of my boundaries, I need to go home to spend time with my family. I can do that tomorrow. So it's not either or, it's both and, but just not today. I don't have the energy to do that today. So you can be selfless while prioritizing your needs and the needs of your family as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So tell me, how can people work with you? Do you have any upcoming programs, any webinars?
Yes. First of all, people, if you're interested in having a free exploratory conversation with me, you can go to my website, which is bernicegeorgecoach.com, and you'll see there access to book a free consultation with me. And I have a program called Free to Be Me. I'm also going to be launching a free webinar, which is called The Power of Identity. And of course, the ebook, which is called You're Not You, A Journey Towards Discovering Yourself. So there are quite a few free resources that I have for people to explore.
That's incredible. And where can one find these resources?
On my website to begin with, bernicegeorgecoach.com, or you can email me at bernicegeorge.com. I'll be happy to send you my free resources.
That would be so amazing. I'll leave all your links down below in the show notes for everyone to go and grab and have a look and attend your webinar. I think it's going to be so valuable. So Bernice, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I am just so happy that we could finally connect and have you on and just to like get all of your knowledge and all of this like really good advice.
Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.